Rachel, I have never worked remotely in my life ever. It was actually my first job, and I thought I would never do a remote job. I don't know if I'm capable of doing a remote job, right? But when I started doing it, it's not 100% remote, I would say, but I love the idea of a hybrid workspace, right? Go out, meet people, be in your office, go out. So on that note, how has your experience been? Because I think you have been working remotely for a very long time.
Hmm. Yeah. But like before I go through my experience, I have one quick question for you. What would you say, like, would you like remote if it was 100% remote for you? Like right
Yeah,
now you said, right, that you it's hybrid, sometimes some clients you go to meet them, some clients you do remote. But what if it was 100%? Would you still have the same opinion?
yeah. I think I'm not a very hardcore remote person because honestly this is something we don't talk about much and hopefully we will. But remote job, like a full time remote job, can take a toll on your mental health. I mean, admit it or not, but it's not exactly healthy, isolating yourself and being like faced with Zoom fatigue. So if we are in the same city and traffic is not a huge concern, I would love to meet people in person. It gets the job done easier. Especially my job is to counsel them where body language matters a lot, right? So over
Yeah,
to you.
yeah,
I know that you recommend remote jobs often, but how has your experience been like?
yeah. Yeah, there's a reason I asked you that question because I mean, my remote jobs have been truly remote, right? Like 100% remote.
Yeah,
So, and they have varied from, you know, jobs where like my whole team was based in the US and I was literally following US hours to the dot. Not exactly like the second half, but at least overlapping my first half in Pakistan with the Pacific time zone for them, for those guys, right? Like at least till their 12 afternoon, I would want to be available, which would be my 1 2 a.m., right? Which is
that's
crazy.
wow.
And obviously, you know, you might like people might say, hey, like I'm a night owl, so it's fine. Like I can stay awake. I stay awake till 3 a.m. anyway. It's very different when you're staying awake till 3 a.m. and Netflixing,
Yeah,
or when you're actually working till 2 3 a.m. and then you want to go to sleep right after, but you can't because your mind is super active. It's in that zone where it
yeah,
just worked, and then there are things you're thinking about for the next day, and it literally goes down to like 4 a.m. or something, and it
yeah,
becomes
wow.
difficult. Then you're sleeping in late because you want to be active at night. You
Yep,
want to be in that zone where you're able to like contribute to the discussions,
yep,
to the meetings. So you can't be, in that zone where like if you're just Netflixing, you're just lying down with a bucket of popcorn, maybe, and your mind is almost off, right?
yeah.
So very different experience.
I mean, it feels
And then
like
like
you
I've
are,
had,
it really feels like you are in a graveyard. That's why they call it the graveyard shifter, right?
yeah, it's similar to that, specifically if you are doing a remote job that's in a very different time zone. Then yes, it can feel
Yes.
that way. But I've also done remote jobs where the time zone wasn't that different. So, like I used to work for a streaming company in the MENA region. So, I mean, compared to Pakistan, where I was based, it was just a 1 hour difference, right? But it was also a 100% remote job with no time zone issue.
Yeah.
So that was a different experience as well. But I think as a whole, what I can say is there should be a criteria one should make on when they should accept a remote job and when they shouldn't. And this criteria varies for different people. Like some people are okay with, like having a professional life that's kind of super isolating as well. Like they're fine with it. They're individual contributors. They
Yeah.
want to be individual contributors. They don't really care about, developing, like social friendlies and DFFs in the workplace. Like they do not want it to be that way. They just want to sit, do their work. And then the social life is actually outside of the professional
Yeah.
versus, like you do have the, um,
Work-life
the other
balance.
category as well, where like who want to make their workplace a kind of super social place, and like
Yeah,
they have team outings, and they have lots of dinners, and they have like these team dinners going on all the while.
yeah.
And if that is doesn't take place for them, the workplace is, they can't value that workplace if this isn't a part and parcel of it, right? So yeah, like there is some criteria that should be there. And I guess maybe what we can do is touch upon what that criteria is, for us at least, and ask our audience to just make sure that they also think about what that criteria should be on their side, and then see like what job makes the cut and what doesn't.
I think most of my audience very French speaking. I hope we have a global audience, hopefully. But if I have to speak from my client experience, like they are applying for master's program, to market in AI, ML, literally the engineer, remote job is your first preference because money drives them, right? The money is good here. But when I'm talking to them, it's very hard for me to chase them all the time because they are operating in a different time zone despite being in my time zone. You get me? I can't
Mm.
work with them at 2 a.m. when that's the only time they are available. I mean, they often say they have used that word. It's a term now. Sleep that. That I am operating
Mm.
on a very limited or a very high sleep that. And I found it very funny. I thought, no, there's nothing like that. But even when you are up the next morning, you don't feel like you have caught up on your sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think there was one time where I suffered from that as well. But then like if I think about it, I mean, even for jobs that are not remote, when there are like
Yeah,
critical products or feature releases that I have to do within a timeline, I've suffered from sleep debt then as well.
yeah,
So it really depends. I think so. For me, I would say there are three main criterias, right? Like one
okay,
is you should accept a remote job if the income differential is significant, between what you would get if you were working kind of in an in-person job in your country versus getting a remote job from a country
yeah,
where like the income is a lot higher, due to either currency difference or just like because of your skill set is a lot more valued
yeah, yeah,
in those countries versus like your own. So that is definitely one significant factor for me, at least. Like if I have the option of working in a hybrid capacity versus remote, and the income it doesn't really differ that much, I would
yeah,
definitely go for hybrid, right?
yeah,
Like I would not want to be in a remote only capacity, just if that criteria isn't fulfilled. Then the other part, and this is something that people underestimate, is if you're working for a remote if you're working remotely for a company, that company should also have a remote first culture.
yeah,
And this is
yeah,
super important because if you are the only remote team or the remote resource, and the company itself is very, like has an in office setting and has an on site culture, then you are definitely going to be super isolated. And not just from from a social perspective, but from a career growth, professional perspective,
yeah.
networking perspective as well, because they will not create opportunities for you to be part of the company just because you are the only person who's working remotely,
Yeah. I think I kind of
right? So yeah.
I think that reminds me when the pandemic hit us, I keep going back to the pandemic. Maybe it was kind of like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic for our millennial kind of population, if you will. But the biggest change that I had to adapt was from a disability perspective. Let's talk about this in a minute because remote, like you said, remote first company would prioritize. people work remotely, even if they have a disability. In fact, if you have a disability, you are more likely to work remotely. It will work in your favor because there's this whole disability tax that you can avoid. You can avoid your commute. You can be more productive when you are
Mm.
working in your private space.